Level up with the new AAA Commanders MVP membership. Get all the benefits of AAA plus exclusive experiences, discounts, and tickets. Already a AAA member? Upgrade for free or join today at AAA.com/Commanders. Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Keim Report wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Empire Media, AMPIRE. Always much appreciated when you tune in. Don't forget you can read my work on ESPN.com. I have a story up this weekend on the impact of Deebo Samuel. It's been pretty big, and he's a key reason why this team is 3-2 despite losing two of their top three receivers. But his versatility has been key. So give that a read on ESPN.com on Saturday. I believe that's today. So anyways, there you go. Before I get into my guest, it's ESPN Bears reporter Courtney Cronin. We're going to talk about 15 minutes about the Bears. Listen, man, they've got some holes. I know people think they have all this momentum, and they've got some. And they're kind of a dangerous team on offense because of the combination of Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams. But as Courtney talks about, they have some issues on the other side of the ball that Washington can absolutely take advantage of. And I'll get into more of that too in my 5 thoughts, which will come out Sunday. So getting you ready for the game Monday night should be a fun one. If they can win this one, they're 4-2 going into, again, continuing into a difficult stretch. But man, you can win. Like, these are the games and these kind of stretches, you've got to hold serve at home, folks. So big game for them. And anyways, Courtney was really good. So stay tuned for her for a couple minutes. But before we get there, this is a Thursday practice update. So, and I'll get to Courtney again, in a couple minutes, but got to get to the injuries. And number one on the list is still Terry McLaurin. He did not practice again today, second straight day. We did see him out there today. He did go out, jog out to the field for some stretching work. And then he went off to a side field to work with trainers, the strength and conditioning coaches. Watching him do a lot of sprinting, did some with a harness, so he looked pretty good sprinting, but I don't know that it looks good for him Monday. I think if that were the case, I think we would have seen him out there running around with the team today. So anyways, but he got a DNP but he is continuing to work off to the side. Again, I think we'll obviously hear on Saturday what his game status is, but it wouldn't, there was some optimism going into the week. I don't know that it's there at this point. So I think we'll see on Saturday for sure, and we'll go from there. But, I'm just kind of bracing you guys. But the other guy who was out there was Noah Brown, and he was out there for a second straight day going through practice, looked pretty good running routes. It said this yesterday, he was going full speed. That's a good sign for Washington for sure. Just give you more receiver depth. Not like, Noah Brown is not a Pro Bowl receiver, but Noah Brown is a guy who can help this offense. And I think the more guys you have like that, the better off you are. For people complain about Chris Moore, I don't think you want to complain about Noah Brown. Yes, he gets hurt a lot. That's the big issue with him, but he can make plays. And that's something this team could use, and especially Monday, because I think there's going to be the opportunity to make some plays. And when you get Deebo Samuel going, you get him, you got Krusky Merritt going. Now you have a chance to really have a fun night on offense. We'll see what happens on the other side of the ball. But anyway, there you go on Noah Brown. Then the other one would be Sam Cosmi. It was the first day he worked in pads. I think, it's funny because I know he felt good about working in pads. I still say the key for him is building up to the 60 to 70 snap range. Is he ready for that? It wouldn't shock me at all if it's a couple weeks of this, right? So he's already missed one game since that window was open. And I think Monday kind of we'll wait and see on that, but it wouldn't shock me just because it takes a while to build up to that point. And there is no need to rush him back because they do have really good. One thing, you talk to these offensive linemen, how much they really respect the depth they have in that room. And I think that's why some guys are able to accept their role. They may not be happy with it, but they can accept it because they see there's a lot of depth and talent. So the gap between starter and backup is not that big. And so I think they know that. Anyways, there you go. And I actually talked to Andrew Wiley about this and just his role and what his year's been like. And I'm going to play that as part of my 5 thoughts. That's another one. Those are the big injuries. Obviously, Deebo Samuel did not practice today. We did talk to him after practice. Does not appear to be any worry with Deebo Samuel. Don't forget, there were 2 days last week he did not practice because of a heel. And so I don't, and this was also listed. I want to make sure I'll tell you what it was listed as. I should have had this called up, but it's on my phone, and I will tell you exactly how it was listed. For Debo, it was listed as the heel, but also rest. So that is something that, again, that's not a surprise. He was out there yesterday, so I wouldn't sit there and worry about that one at this point. So I think he'll be okay. So, all right, folks. I think really that's about. Oh, last thing I'll tell you is they don't have practice on Friday tomorrow. They're going to do like basically a recovery treatment period. So they're going to be coming in and out throughout the day. So over like a 6-7 hour period. And then they will be back out here on Saturday. So Saturday then becomes kind of like their Friday practice of the past. So like they'll get out here around 11 a.m., practice for about an hour, a little bit more than an hour, and maybe an hour and a half or so. And then they'll do a walkthrough on Sunday. So, and that's what we got. And it's funny because like I think that win last week really, really helped, and it kind of solidified just really who they are. And I think you can see that reflected in the locker room. Like this is a pretty confident, loose group. And that sometimes, again, I've said this before, you don't know always what that means for a team. I think with this team, that's a good thing. So, anyways, folks, that's all I got. So I'm going to stop rambling. And here's my conversation with my pal, ESPN's Courtney Cronin, who covers the Bears. Commanders fans, this is for you. Level up with the brand new AAA Commanders MVP membership. You'll receive all the benefits of AAA, such as 24/7 roadside assistance, plus chances to win game tickets, access to exclusive team events and experiences, along with 15% off Commanders gear at the online pro shop. Already a AAA member? Add the Commanders MVP membership for free. Head to AAA.com/Commanders to upgrade or join the squad and put your fandom in drive. The wallet I had before Ridge could have doubled as a phone book. That wasn't good for my back at all. Take a look at this. Yes, it's like George Costanza's. Now I have a sleek new wallet from Ridge. It's a slim, modern design that can hold up to 12 cards plus cash. It's made with premium materials, and all Ridge products have a lifetime warranty. You want one with the Commanders logo? You can get it. But Ridge is more than just wallets. I have a magnetic wireless charger that is terrific. They have key cases where the keys fold inside. No matter the product, Ridge offers free shipping and a 99-day risk-free trial. For a limited time, our listeners get 10% off at Ridge by using the code Keim at checkout, Keim. Just head to ridge.com, use the code Keim, and you're all set. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them our show sent you. Once again, that's 10% off Ridge by using the code Keim at checkout. Go to ridge.com, use the code Keim, and you're all set. And don't forget, let them know where you heard about them. Okay, Courtney, so the first thing everybody's going to want to talk about this game is that Hail Mary. Mm-hmm. And from this end, we know how it impacted Washington, Jaden Daniels. From Chicago's perspective, what happened after that? What was the impact of that play?
It torpedoed the season. Like there's no way around it. And I know that players, when you talk to them about it nearly a calendar removed, are going to try to downplay the impact of that because they don't want to make Tyreek Stevenson feel like the scapegoat for the season. Because, frankly, there were so many more issues. That just happened to be the one that broke the dam. But, losing 10 straight games beyond that, the next two games when they were absolutely listless, especially on offense, the Arizona game, Caleb Williams is in there when the game's down 29-9, injures his ankle. And it's like, what the heck are you doing, Matt Eberflus? And then 1 week later, he gets sacked 9 times against the New England Patriots, who had a horrible pass rush coming in and then come in and look like world beaters. Shane Waldron fired 2 days later, Thomas Brown promoted to interim offensive coordinator. Things start to look up. They have those 3 games against the division, and they're 1-score games. And we all know what happened in that 1-score game against the Detroit Lions, led to the firing, the first time the Bears have fired a head coach in season in Matt Eberflus. And then it was just survival mode, John. For the rest of the way, just trying to get through the rest of the season. They were outplayed. A lot of those games weren't even close. And it was a lot of growing that we saw Caleb Williams have to do to figure out this went the absolute opposite of the way that I expected it to, the way that anybody here expected them to when they drafted him number 1 overall, and just trying to get through week to week. I remember covering that team, and there was just an energy around this group where it was another one of these? Is it going to be loss number 8 in a row, 9 in a row, 10 in a row? It was a lot. And I think you can just point back to that moment and just like the whiplash of, whoa, things were so good coming out of the bye. They were 4-2. They were feeling really good about where they were headed. Yes, there were a lot of flaws, very clearly, but no one expected. I think it just showed you how fragile everything was internally for one moment like that in that game to just like ruin everything the rest of the way.
How does it impact this game? I know it's a different coaching staff and all that, but do they look at this as like a, some sort of not a measuring stick, but
Mhm.
a way to maybe right their season this time, or go get it and go in, or does it have any impact at all?
Well, internally, they're going to say we've moved past that. That was a year ago. Tyreek Stevenson apologized to the team for his role in that. But I think there are some important things that you can take from that game, the subsequent fallout, in showing how they've already tried to flip the script on that. This was a team that couldn't finish a game to save
Mhm.
their life last year. Like, we all forget Caleb Williams led a game-winning drive before Jaden Daniels gets the ball back and Matt Eberflus decides not to give him
Right,
13
right,
free
right.
yards. Like that would have gone down as, hey, he figured it out. It was ugly. Sometimes these wins are ugly, but hey, he got it done. He hit the 2-point conversion. They'd had their first lead all game. That got erased. Like, so I think that being able to see him do that now, being in 2-minute mode is where he thrives. We saw him do that against the Raiders, and the team that was never able to finish a game last year did it this time around. Like it wasn't pretty, just like the Washington game would have been had they won that game. But they did enough to get things done. And so at 2-2, I think this is a team that's feeling comfortable, not confident yet, but like comfortable that we're on the right track. It's trending in the right direction. And if they can continue to build upon that and not let Washington and Northwest Stadium all of a sudden become their house of horrors. Because, you go back 2 years ago, they won 40-20. It was a
Right,
great moment
right,
for this
right.
team amid some really tough seasons. But I don't think they use it as any sort of motivation, any sort of like anything specific to that play. I think it's just turning the trend of, hey, we're coming off of an early bye again. How can we make sure that the progress we've built upon doesn't get squandered, depending upon whatever happens in this Washington game?
What's been Ben Johnson's impact?
On the team as a whole, it's a different, like the way the team's coached is different. And I go back to what Caleb Williams wanted from his coaching staff. I was writing it in our joint assignment that we're doing for Monday Night Football of like, what happened from Washington all the way to the end of the season. And his final words were, I want someone who wants to coach us hard, who's going to be about like, be about it, say about it more like less. Um, and he found that in Ben Johnson. And the intensity of this team. Like you heard Ben Johnson today, or excuse me, yesterday come out. Like they're coming off the bye, yet he's rattling off a laundry list of things. Like the run game's not so good. The play action game's good. The screen game leaves a lot to be desired. He's pointing to more of the negatives because it's affecting them right now. Because you can't just like think, okay, well, we're 2-2, everything's gonna be fine. There's a lot to fix on offense. And so you're getting somebody who's very realistic about it and measured in his approach to know as long as he's continuing to see growth from Caleb Williams from the offense, he's not going to panic that the run game isn't working right now. Now, obviously, that may change depending on what happens the next couple of weeks, but he's intense, and I think that shows just in terms of how hard he is on himself as a play caller and how hard he is on the team. That you guys are 2-2, but you haven't accomplished anything yet, and that's the right approach, and especially on defense too, because they've got a lot that they've got to figure out on that side of the ball when you know it's just not good right now over on that side.
We'll get to that in a minute. But with
Yeah.
Johnson, and you talk about like with Caleb, what he wanted, and what Daniels had last year was an offensive coordinator, Cliff Kingsbury, who basically matched Daniels in terms of work ethic, in terms of
Hmm.
approach, et cetera. And I think that really helps. So how has Caleb responded to this, and what differences do you see in his play?
I remember when that Jaden, like when it just there was a lot of comparisons between where Jaden Daniels was as a leader last year and where Caleb Williams was, the things that he had to work on. And I honestly think just because of the way that the season went, he had way too much to overcome where you're worrying about like leadership, all of those things that frankly, he's just trying to survive. So like what you've seen now is Ben Johnson holding him accountable in ways that the last coaching staff just I didn't feel comfortable doing. And that's something that he asked for. That's something that he like specifically wanted with with his second season. And that's translating to on-field play to where mistakes are getting called out. So when he's, I remember a moment after the Raiders game because I was on sideline for that game. And there's in the third end of the third quarter, it's looking pretty bleak. And Tom Moore, our analyst on ESPN radio, was like, he's not seeing the field the way that an NFL quarterback needs to see the field. And you could see Caleb. I was right behind the Bears bench, and it was Caleb, Case Keenum in front of him. And Caleb was just sitting there looking not like pissed, not dejected, but just looking like overwhelmed in that moment. And there's been a whole conversation here about body language throughout the like off season that's something that they really wanted to work with him on. And it was Case Keenum in that moment who was going up and down the sideline, high-fiving guys like, hey, stay in this, we're close. And Caleb's not doing that. And I don't think it's an indictment of like Caleb in that moment specifically, but he brought that up after the game when he's talking about his body language. And he's like, I'm trying to stay locked in so my teammates don't think, okay, well, more or less paraphrasing here, like, I've given up, the game's over, we should all give up. Like, I think he's doing a better job of recognizing when it's happening. And I think it does translate to what you see from him on the field and what you see from him in moments where it becomes a do or die situation. Because if there's one thing that this staff knows, that we know, that anybody's ever watched Caleb Williams knows, he lives for the 2-minute drill. And you saw that with the game-winning drive in Vegas when he hits, when the run game finally hits, he gets DeAndre Swift going. I think he had 8 completions before his first incompletion in that game, in that drive. And Ben Johnson and him had a conversation right before. They said, you're made for this moment. Like, go out and do it. And that's growth. That's somebody who speaks the quarterback language, knowing which buttons to push with him. He did that in that moment, and it got the best out of Caleb.
How's the O-line been? I know been a couple changes.
Mhm.
How's that been?
Um, on the interior, the 3 new pieces that they brought in between Joe Tooney, Drew Dahlman, and Jonah Jackson, like, fine, I'd say. Nothing like super spectacular. I mean, the sack numbers for Caleb are down to where they were, compared to a year ago. But like, this could very well be, it's going to be really interesting to see because we're all expecting Theo Benedict to now be at left tackle because I don't care what anybody says. Braxton Jones was benched in that game. If you say that, like, oh, you want to get Ozzie Trapillo reps, you wait until there's a clean break, which is halftime. You don't do it before halftime. You do it before halftime if somebody's getting cooked. And that's what was happening in that game. So, like, as it pertains to the O-line, there's this question mark of, and it might not even affect this game because we don't know if Darnell Wright's going to play or not with the elbow injury. Then you might see Ozzie Trapillo get a second game where he's active and where he's playing. But there's an interesting dynamic happening right now with the tackles and what the numbers game is going to be at that moment.
Commanders fans, this is for you. Level up with the brand new AAA Commanders MVP membership. You'll receive all the benefits of AAA, such as 24/7 roadside assistance, plus chances to win game tickets, access to exclusive team events and experiences, along with 15% off Commanders gear at the online pro shop. Already a AAA member? Add the Commanders MVP membership for free. Head to AAA.com/Commanders to upgrade or join the squad and put your fandom in drive. And then defensively, you brought it up earlier. What are the issues?
Run defense, real bad. So Krosky Merritt is going to have, potentially, I know what he had his career day last week, and what was it, like 9 yards a pop nearly in the ground. They allowed Ashton Genty to have the same sort of impact. They allowed Javonte Williams, and yeah, more of a limited sample size, but they're allowing like 6, 7, 8, 9 yards a carry. That's a problem right now. And that run defense, it's one of the worst in the NFL. And if they can't stop, like, the ground support's a quarterback's best friend. So if you're able to, allow that to happen from an early point of the game this coming Monday, then you're going to be playing from behind and you're going to be having to get into a shootout to win games. Because we know that, even though what were they down last week? 10-0, and they come back and they win the game. Like, that was Jane Daniels coming off injury too. Like, they know what he's capable of. They know he's a huge part of the run game too. That's the quarterback that you have to have somebody spying. You have to account for him in a lot of ways. So that's their biggest issue on defense right now. Health is certainly a big part of all of those things. Doesn't sound like Grady Jarrett's going to be close to being ready to go for this week. But then on the back end of the defense, or I guess, TJ Edwards looks like he might be ready to go. The linebacker who has not been playing for a couple weeks with a hamstring injury. And then the back end of the defense, Kyler Gordon told us yesterday that he will be making his debut against the Commanders in week 6. He wasn't there last year because he had a hamstring injury. So this will be his first time in a while playing in Washington. But yeah, health is a big part of that on defense. But I think the run defense and frankly, just like everything that's going on up front, lack of pass rush, kind of toothless in that respect. It just hasn't been what they thought it would be to this point. But again, the personnel hasn't changed all that much. It's just they're not getting a lot out of these guys.
Very last thing, what I noticed is that like they don't give up a lot of passing yards off quarterback scrambles. I
Hmm.
see the stat. Why is that? Because that's something Jayden does very well. So
Yeah.
is that a good thing, or is that are quarterbacks not having to scramble against them?
Probably not. Probably that. Probably because they're throwing from clean pockets,
Okay.
and that's not, they really don't have much of a, the QB pressures are sort of there, but it's not translating to
Okay.
sack numbers. So I think more of it has to do with they're not crashing into the backfield the way that they need to. So if these guys are having more time to throw, like look at Jared Goff. Ben Johnson said it perfectly right after that game. He's like, yeah, like that's a quarterback who can do that to you when you give him time and a clean pocket to throw from. They need to improve that part up front. They do get Austin Booker. They've just activated his IR window, so he has 21 days to return to the active roster, and that should be something that here in the next couple of days we'll know how ready he is for that to see if they get more support up front.
Courtney, thank you very much. I'll see you on Monday.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Cool. That's it for this episode. Thanks to Courtney for joining me, and thank you, as always, for tuning in. I'll be back on Sunday morning with my 5 thoughts, getting you ready just on a variety of Commanders topics, but also getting you ready for Monday's game against the Chicago Bears. Things I picked up watching the game, watching their games, and just things I've heard throughout the week here, and just trying to provide you whatever insight I can. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll talk to you next time.